welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at all the different moves that are going to change during this new season for the Gold Battle League. So all the moves like Mud Step or whatever that got like some kind of buff or like even nerf, like the Psychic, we want to take a look at today for this video. But also we're going to have a video later on for all the kind of moves that got added to Pokemon's moveset. So if you want to watch those videos as well, feel free to subscribe. Only 44% are actually subscribed to the channel, so feel free to do it. It's free. Let's take a look at Mud Slap immediately here. This is going to be something that you're going to see as well throughout the video. The energy values are not going to be confirmed. The thing is, for this one, Niantic only going to confirm basically the damage values, but never the energy and also never the buff chances, which is kind of sad unless it's going to be a guaranteed one. But here we're going to take a look at Mud Slap. For example, here we're going to take a look at the +1 energy with 9 energy, 11 damage in 3 turns. I would rather want to see either +2 or +3 even as energy, because I feel like it still would be okay for it. But what we have to consider here, basically right now the only Pokemon that really want to run this move at the current time in the meta are Gastrodon as well as the Rhyperior. Gastrodon is not really that great either, because Gastrodon is just a water and ground type, and we have Swampert, we have Quagsire, we have literally so many different ones, Wishcast, whatever you want to take. And so it's basically down to Rhyperior, which is the only one that's decent in Master League. So we're gonna take a look exactly at the Marowak for whatever reason. Shadow Marowak is going to be definitely an interesting Pokemon, because of what you don't know is that this Pokemon is fairly bulky, has like over 2000 I think as a stat product, which is really decent, and has Mud Slap, Rock Slide as well as a Bone Club. And so for why I didn't actually take the Rhyperior there is because that Breaking Swipe also got nerfed, and we don't really know exactly what the nerf going to be. We're going to take a look at this later on as well. Like, there is a very clear indication on what it's going to be, but I kind of wanted to at least take a look at something that doesn't have another move that also going to get nerfed. So we're going to take a look at Marowak, and this +1 energy, and as you can see, the difference is not really there. Like, it's going to get +31 average rating, which doesn't really help it out too much, so at least +2 would be nice, please Niantic. Would appreciate it, would love it, would be better for us all. So hopefully if you see that, Niantic, feel free to go for +2 instead of +1. But yeah, this Pokemon would be actually kind of interesting, because it can destroy something like a Carbink, but you have also like coverage against flying type Pokemon, which is kind of nice, and it's just great, great stats. Would love to see some Bone Club buff as well, but we can move on to the next one. Going to be Fire Spin. This one at least is confirmed going to be 10 damage, 10 energy in 3 turns. Some Pokemon that learns it here, for example, is Charizard. I'll take a look at Charizard as well, and it is not better than a Wing Attack. Wing Attack is still preferred on Charizard. For Ninetales, you can argue that a Fire Spin is now a little bit better than Ember. Before it was kind of even, now Fire Spin might be a little bit better. Marowak going to be interesting. I'm scared for Solgaleo in the Master League, I have to be honest there. Like, Solgaleo is already very strong. And we're going to also have the Heatran here, and we're going to take a look at Heatran, of course. Heatran is going to be a very decent Pokemon in the Master League. Not really the moveset that you want to run, as you're going to have here Fire Spin, Magma Storm, and Iron Head. You most likely would rather go for the Stone Head for Ho-Oh and Co. But we can take a look here at what it can do with the buff, and we're gonna see a +32 average rating, which is going to allow this Pokemon to win some more matchups. But again, it's most likely going to be better with Stone Edge, but also I guess it's kind of meta. Like, honestly, it's kind of decent. I'm just a little bit scared with now the Zygarde being everywhere. Honestly, I feel like Zygarde completely destroyed Master League for me, same as Solgaleo. Like, you see it all the time now. I know there were like some illegal glitch or whatever to get XL candies, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to face it, honestly. I just don't want to face it. Moving on, we're going to have Incinerate, and this is definitely the biggest buff this season. Incinerate getting +5 damage, going to get it up to 20 damage, 20 energy, 5 turns for energy and damage per turn, which is really, really strong. Like, this is insanely strong. The strongest move most likely in the game at the current time based on this, but also you're going to lose a little bit on it because it's so clunky. 5 turns is very clunky, and I think this is exactly how we kind of should go forward. Give moves that are really clunky great stats so people can actually still use it. Because Incinerate is going to be a little bit tricky to play with, but of course there's one Pokemon that's going to really enjoy this. All of those Pokemon that you see on our screen going to get a great buff and have like their own kind of playstyle. But one is just better than the others, and that's going to be Talonflame. We can see here that we're going to go for Brave Bird, and we're just going to go for Brave Bird in general, because we're going to take a look at Fly in a different video later on as well. But Brave Bird is going to still be very solid on this Pokemon, as we can see, from 514 average rating, which is already decent, we go up to 576 average rating. I feel like it's a little bit too strong, right? Like, look on the right side, like, it beats even a Jellicent. Like, it is ridiculous. It's literally destroys a Mantine. What else does it destroy what it shouldn't destroy? I don't know, like, something Clodsire. I don't know. It's like, honestly, destroys Lickitung, destroys Medicham. Like, this Pokemon, I would be surprised if Talonflame does not win a regional championship during the time where this season is going on. Like, honestly, I would be so surprised if this does not happen. Talonflame was already something I considered bringing if I would have went for a tournament beforehand. Now it's literally complete, maybe #1 meta Pokemon. I would not be surprised if this was like basically the new Medicham as Talonflame now. But let's take a look at the next Fire-type buff, which is something that I actually suggested like the entire season, which is kind of funny that there's a lot of Fire-type buffs. And look, Niantic listened to me. That's really nice. So thanks, Niantic. We're gonna have another Fire-type buff here with Blaziken. Only really 5 solid Pokemon can learn this, as you can see on the screen. Basically, the only ones that have Stab are like the starter Pokemon here, but let's take a look at the best one of them all, which is going to be Blaziken. Blaziken is going to be here in the Shadow variant with Blaziken as well as Stone Edge, and I have to say I cheated here a little bit. As you can see here, we're gonna get an average increase of 21. Usually, all the things that you see here are in the 1-shield scenario, but this is in the 0-shield scenario because both the 1-shield and the 2-shield scenario basically didn't change. Like, literally basically didn't change. It doesn't matter for the moves, like for the matchups in general. But yeah, like, honestly, it is definitely something that you kind of like appreciate. Like, it's going to be cool. Like, you win 2 more matchups in the 0-shield scenario, but it's not going to really make this Pokemon insanely meta or any of the other ones either. Very sad that we don't get the low kick buff, which I suggested in the video yesterday, because I would appreciate something like, for example, here you saw the Mienshao, which would have had low kick, for example, which would have really appreciated then as well, but sadly we don't. What we do have, though, is a Breaking Swipe nerf, and it is predicted, and I kind of got leaked, I don't know if it's actually correct though, that it's going to be a 50% attack drop, which is kind of cool. Before it was 100%. Still the same damage. Honestly, it's just because of Steelix, right? And so yeah, like, I'm kind of sad for the other ones where it kind of was balanced, but maybe it gives like the opportunity to get Mudslap a little bit better than I showed it before, because you have now Rhyperior, which also got nerfed with that. Would be cool to be seen here. I messed up a little bit on the next one here, so I'm just gonna go straight for it. We're gonna see a decrease of 65, which is kind of wild, so definitely something that's going to impact Steelix quite a bit. You see on the right side, you don't even win that many matchups anymore now. Great Ultra League here, even as an XL Steelix, so if you build an XL Steelix, I'm sorry for you. It's still viable, like, you can still use it, but honestly, I don't think I'm going to touch my Steelix anymore. I don't want to bring my Steelix anymore, because this is going to be something that is not really something that I like to play. You know myself with the nerfs and like with those chances, I'm never going to be able to get it. If the opponent has a Moonburst against me, 10% chance all the time hitting against me, but if I have like my Zapcan or my Registeel, I never get the debuff, so I most likely try to avoid those Pokemon that have like those chances. But let's take a look at the next one, right? We're gonna have here the Iron Tail. Iron Tail plus 1 damage, going to be very, very interesting. But we don't know the energy again. And for this, we're gonna go ahead and go for the plus 4 energy to go for 10 energy and 10 damage. This would make it, again, a Magic Leaf clone, which would be okay for it. And you might think, oh, Steelix as well as the Bastion, they're going to really appreciate it, and it's going to make them better. I honestly think Iron Tail Steelix might be better, which might be also the savior for this Pokemon, which might make it a little bit balanced again, which I think would be not as bad, but we don't really know about it yet. For the Bastion, I feel like Smackdown is still going to be better, just because Steel is a pretty horrific offensive typing. Yes, you're going to have Fairy types that you can hit with that, but you don't see any Rock types really around, other than Carbink, which is also part Fairy type, that really wants to get hit by Steel. And what do you hit otherwise? Ice types? Like, how often do you see them? Like, also not that crazy often. And if like it's in Yugong, which is going to take super effective damage from Smackdown, like any Ice type Pokemon, so again, there's no real reason for the Bastion to really run this one. It does not seem to be better than Smackdown from what I've seen as well, from calculations. For the other Pokemon on the screen here, might be better for the Aggron, but depends. It's kind of the same scenario as you have for Steelix. But we're gonna take a look, of course, at the Lairon. And so this is going to be the Iron Tail variant of a Lairon, but Metal Claw would look a little bit better. For Iron Tail here, the upgrade going to be very significant if you would put like plus 4 energy on this, and still it's going to be kind of horrible, because again, if you take a look on the right side, what is really Steel Fast Move going to do here for you? Against Swampert, resisted. Against Registeel, resisted. Against Steelix, resisted. Against Cordyceps, neutral, I guess. Against Galarian Stunfisk, resisted. Against Pelipper, resisted. Even you still win because of the Rock Slide. Against Mantine, resisted. Against Quagsire, resisted. And as well against the Jellicent, it's going to be resisted. So basically half of the list on the right side is going to be resisting the Steel type fast move, so it's never going to be that great. And that's basically also the main issue for like Steelix or whatever. Yes, it might make the Pokemon a little bit better in general, but if you take a look at the meta, there are a lot of other Steel type Pokemon as well as a lot of Water type Pokemon, which all going to be very, very bad for like Iron Tail users. Moving on, Steel Wing Skarmory. I didn't even have to make the slide again because I already had this one built before from the video that you saw on Monday. So today is Wednesday most likely for you. For me it's still Tuesday. But we're gonna see here +1 energy most likely for it. We don't know the energy stat directly, but it's very likely it's going to be +1 energy, making it 7 damage, 6 energy, which is an Ember clone, which I guess is kind of fine for it. It's 2 turns. So, yeah, Ember Clone for Skarmory would make this fairly decent. I hit this slide already for the Monday video, so if you saw that one, you most likely saw this one as well. We're going to see that this Pokemon's still going to be very strong if you're going to give this buff, and so I guess it's going to be very cool for it, but again, like, for a Pokemon like the Swampert or whatever, you don't really appreciate it too much, but as most Water types are part Ground type, you're going to be better off here with Skarmory because you're still Flying type Pokemon. Again, I don't think it's going to be as good as you can see it here right now anyway, but let's move on to the next one. Going to be Astonish. What can Astonish do? We will never know. No, we will know now because it's going to get +4 damage, going to put it to 9 damage and 10 energy. This is going to be a clone of iChart, which is going to be okay for it. So like it's going to be like the Diogong charging up those moves. And I took a look at how good it is compared to the move Hex, and it's kind of similar. So like you have some play with those Pokemon now, like they are okay now. Are they great? No. Is it like an upgrade? Maybe. It's more like of a side grade. You can use it on the Drifblim, you can use it on the Explode if you really want to use it. You can use it on the Golurk, you can use it on the basically everything that you see here other than the what's called the bottom right thingy there, which is ever using Rollout, whatever. But let's take a look at Amoongus. Amoongus using Feint Attack nowadays, but of course we're gonna take a look here now at the Astonish, making it, giving it basically +3 wins and still being completely garbage, and this is basically what you would see as well. The only one that's really viable from the ones before here as well is going to be most likely the Sandcastle down there, and the rest is kinda... It's still Golurk got also Mudslap buff, so Mudslap is most likely going to be better for it anyway. So let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Bubble. Bubble is actually very interesting. Mainly here, those Pokemon, they're all really, really decent with Bubble. Actually, Piplup is really funny because it has Icy Wind, Bubble Beam, as well as Hydro Pump. But Mantine going to really appreciate it. Mantine is actually maybe a little bit better than Wing Attack with Bubble because Bubble damage is going to be very cool for it. We're going to have the Azumarill here, going to be very decent as well. We're going to have the Jellicent, which kind of always uses Hex nowadays, but now with Bubble Buff might change it a little bit. And Ludicolo also got the move, I think, Scald. I think it got Scald. So it's going to be interesting for this one as well. But let's take a look at the main one here. This is going to be the one that is getting the biggest buff. It's going to be Azumarill. Azumarill, like, got nerfed before with Bubble, where they took 1 damage away from Bubble. Now they're gonna give it back for it, which kind of shows like the power creep of Go Battle League and the PvP side, which is kind of sad. But going from 19 wins to 24 wins, +5 wins for this Pokemon. You see on the right side, this thing is insane. This thing going to destroy all the meta. Yeah, I would not be surprised if Azumarill going to be there every second game, but again, like it's going to be a very strong Pokemon. But there are going to be some interesting Pokemon that are going to beat those new meta Pokemon as well, which I'm going to showcase most likely in a different video as well. So feel free to subscribe to the channel as you can move on to the Scald buff. I wanted to showcase here first the Suicune, but this is going to be something for the video later on. But what we can take a look here is also +5 damage, which is kind of cool, plus a buffed increased chance here for the attack drop. Very likely to be a 50% chance with that. And we're going to take a look here at the Tentacruel. This Pokemon going to be very good for both Great League as well as Ultra League. Right now in the Great League, not as great, even though it's in the Great League. But we're going to take a look here very quick at what it can do. It gets +5 wins, and in the Ultra League it's going to be even better. But let's take a look at what it's actually going to be able to beat. Most likely actually the Medicham as well, because I'm fairly certain that the Medicham not going to run the move Dynamic Punch anymore, but we're gonna take a look at this afterwards. But otherwise, you're gonna be able to beat most of the core meta. Still, of course, something like a Steel type going to be a little bit tricky for you, but those changes on the right side are, by the way, also already with the attack changes. For example, Steelix still got the nerf here, also Medicham got the nerf, but they're still running Psychic, which most likely going to change here. Those are the only two Pokemon that really run Psychic in the Go Battle League. There are some other Pokemon that learn Psychic as well. For example, Mewtwo, which has also Side Strike. Or, I don't know, like, honestly, like, there are a ton of Pokemon, like Nonala or whatever, that learn Psychic, but, like, none of them really want this move. And so, as we're going to see here right now, Psychic dropped by 10 damage from 85 to 75. I actually thought it was only 80 before, but so be it. Now it is going to be 75, which is really good for us, because now this move is basically so bad that I would be surprised if a Medicham would ever even going to run it anymore. Like, it's not worth it at this point of time. I feel like Psychic Medicham is dead. Dynamic Punch is going to be the main way for you to go on with it, basically, because I feel like maybe Ice Punch is going to be better in the mirror nowadays, since Psychic got nerfed, so going to be cool for it. But sad for everybody who used like a Psychic on like the Elite Term on the Umbreon. I actually played a little bit of the Catch Cup recently, and I encountered like 5 different Psychic Umbreons, and I was like, yeah, you're gonna be a little bit screwed now, I would say. So let's take a look on how much this actually impacts the Medicham as the final one for today. Current average rating 523, it's a little bit better than this, of course, but you see it's a little bit neutral, like everything is like in the middle. You can still flip in certain matchups, which is like the main thing about Medicham. As you can see here, it's gonna drop by 17 with Psychic, but again, I feel like it's not gonna drop as much as it seems like here, because you're gonna just flip it around, go for Dynamic Punch, which makes Lickitung a little bit more difficult to play as well, I guess, but I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be a very interesting new season, I have to say. I would imagine that there are some Pokemon that you might not expect come and rise a little bit, but we're going to take a look at this on a later time, so feel free to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a... That doesn't even make sense. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the videos on the screen. Bye bye.